Okay, so I'm just gonna start recording this, and then if people hop on, great. Otherwise, I know that it was like a weird time. We were in Austin this morning, so uh, I wasn't able to do it this morning. But I want everyone who is in the leadership chat or is in my key players chat to tag their newbies in the live video that I just did in the Moneymakers team page, because it talks all about, like, I know that you guys have heard this just like I have, of distributors saying things like, no one ever replies to me, or no one ever wants to join my team, or no one wants these products, or every time I message someone, they just read it and never respond, or nobody adds me back. And I kind of went, I'm not going to go too much in depth to it because I, kind of explained a lot of it in that video, and also put the podcast that I got this inspiration from, like, in the comments so that they can listen to it. It's only like 15 minutes long, so it's not like it's a whole hour long training or like anything like that. So it's definitely good for them to watch, slash listen to. But part of the reason why I want everyone to do this is because it talks about how those statements are generalizations. And there are so many people in this world, literally billions. So if we say no one or everyone or whatever, we are grouping all of those billions of people together. And the reality is that we didn't message a billion people. We messaged 10 people, 12 people, whatever it is, and we're not getting a response from those 12 people. Well, what would happen if you sent 100 messages? What would happen if you sent 50? You know what I'm saying? You would probably get a reply. So I want them to go watch that. And then this is going to be quick, but I want to just share with you guys like some of the things that I personally have been struggling with, like business wise, when it comes to life. And you'll understand what I mean and why I said that the way I did as we go on. But we have been so busy. Like, seriously, I swear to God, ever since we moved to Texas, like, our life has done nothing but speed up instead of slow down. Like, it's been absolutely nutty. We've been dealing with the kids being sick, or Connor being sick, or I've been sick like once or twice since we've been here, and just like things happening and trying to figure out moving and trying to see our friends and just literally trying to live life on a day-to-day basis. And I had a conversation with my aunt last night, and she just really reminded me that, like, success sometimes just means taking things day by day and taking things hour by hour if needed. You know what I mean? And I think so often we look at, like, oh, this is going to happen this week, or I sucked at this yesterday, or I didn't do that, or, like, especially as women, I talk about this all the time. Like, our brain is running a million miles an hour, especially if you're like me and have anxiety. Like, I literally, physically, mentally cannot think about one thing at a time. And I'm going to give you an example. So earlier, Connor and I were standing out here smoking a cigarette. Disgusting, I know. And Oakland legit locked the door. And the front door was also locked because we had just woken up, we made coffee, and we were coming out here, and she was just watching a show. So we didn't think anything of it. Well, Connor's sitting out here laughing, knocking on the door, like, yo, unlock the door, whatever, because he's not freaking out about it. And he doesn't deal with anxiety. And he's also a man. So everything that's going through his brain is, damn, that sucks. I hope that she opens the door soon. And me, I'm literally standing here freaking out because I immediately went into panic mode and was like, we don't have the keys. My phone is inside. What if Emma starts crying? Oh my gosh, are we going to have to call the fire department? Like, and this isn't a matter of like 10 seconds. Like, I shit you not, you guys, she opened the door like less than 20 seconds after Connor was knocking on it. And I'm like, and he's like, you need to stop freaking out because she's going to get freaked out and not want to open the door. Like, just relax. And I'm like, dude. And so we started laughing because we were talking about just everything that was going through my mind. And he was laughing at me in a, loving way of just like, it's so funny because he thinks about a singular thing at a time. And I think about 100 things in literally a second time frame. Otis, come over here. Come here. These mosquitoes are so bad, dude. I have mosquito bites all over me. But anyways, point being, we think about the same thing just like on a day-to-day basis. So the amount of thoughts that I have compared to Connor on the scale of one day, 24 hours is tenfold. And then you try to add in business or like self-care or anything else on top of that. I'm like, I legitimately cannot function. And what she reminded me is just like taking a step back and living life day by day and hour by hour and moment by moment. Because if I stress about what's going to happen next month or what's going to happen next week or shit, even what's going to happen tomorrow, I'm taking myself not only out of the present moment, but I'm not focusing on gratitude or congratulating myself on the things that I've already accomplished, even if it's just doing one thing at a time. And that kind of leads into what else I was going to say, and just that I wanted to talk to you guys tonight about you can have it all. And I'm telling you these things and why I've been like where my mind has been at, and the fact that we're so busy and all of these things, because I know that I'm not the only one going through this. And I know that our business gets put on the back burner when life is happening, and when we're having intrusive thoughts, and when our anxiety kicks in, and when we're freaking out about all of these things, when in reality, what we do on a day-to-day basis takes 1, maybe 2 hours if we sit down and bust it out. That's not a lot of time. And not only that, we get so paralyzed in these thoughts and in these feelings that we just end up not doing anything or not doing what we should be doing, right? And so when I say you can have it all, today is a perfect example for me. And I want to take you through my day so you can see like that you guys can have these things too. And I know that some people work a 9 to 5 and it's not as easy as, I make it out to be or whatever, but I want you guys, especially those of you watching this on replay or newbies who end up watching this. When I first started this, I was working 60 plus hours a week. So it doesn't matter what your daily schedule looks like or how little of time you have. The reality is that we all have 24 hours in a day, point blank, period. And what you decide to do with that time is entirely up to you, and it's not on anyone else. So it ultimately comes down to prioritization, time management, and focusing on what makes you happy. Like I've talked about before, and this is so key for me recently, is like taking inspired action, doing things that literally make me feel good, like recording podcasts or going for a walk or, hanging out with my kids or going to see my friends in Austin or whatever. And most of the time, like on a day like today, when we have a car ride, I wouldn't work in the car because I get so car sick. Well, one of the nice things about Texas is that it's all flat, and it is a straight shot from San Antonio to Austin on 35. Like there's no curves, there's no nothing, right? So I took a Dramamine before we left, and I worked the whole time, the hour drive there. And all that I have left to do tonight was to do this call, to record a podcast, and send my messages. You know what I'm saying? And so today we woke up, we had coffee this morning together. I didn't listen to self-development right away necessarily. I found that, well, I'll get to that in a second, but we woke up, we did our thing, and then we got the kids in the car, and I worked for that hour. And then I was so present. My phone was literally in my bag when we were with our friends. We were there for like 3 or 4 hours. I was 100% present with them and my family. And then when we left, Connor wasn't feeling great because he's hungover. And so I had to drive home. So that took away the other hour that I was planning on working. Now, normally that would stress me out because that was the time that I had planned to work my business. So like normally my mind would be running all over the place on trying to figure out a time that works for me to work my business. Well, the reality is that okay, go, you're pissing me off. Go, you're getting me all muddy. The reality is that there's never a good time to work your business, right? There just isn't. So I had to reevaluate, and I had to move some things around, and I had to have Connor help me feed Emmett his bottle so that I could come out here and do those things. And I I know that I may not be making sense and I'm going all over the place right now. That's just because that's where my head is at. But I hope that you hear my heart when I say that you can have everything. You just have to be focused on what feels good and what needs to happen for you to create fluidity in your life. Instead of being so structured and I have to mark my business at this time because I have this going on and this going on or whatever. And then inevitably, how many times have you had a schedule set up and something comes up, or one of your kids gets sick, or your dog starts shitting all over the place and you have to clean it up? Like, been there. You know what I'm saying? So it's never, ever. And it makes me think about when Kiana and I were talking before she had her baby, and we were talking about her birth plan. And I literally said to her, I was like, I'm so proud of you. And that's so amazing that you have a birth plan, but I can promise you it's not going to go that way. And guess what? It didn't, but she still had an amazing birth and she has a beautiful, happy little baby boy, right? It does not take away from the result because you need to move things around. Just because you weren't able to accomplish what you set out to accomplish in the time you set it in does not mean that you cannot get those things done that you want to get done. It just means you need to refocus. It means you need to pivot. It means we need to create that fluidity. So instead of, like I said, being so structured, allow those things to come up. Know that they are going to come up. Know that this is just a rough draft idea of your day and it is going to get moved around, period. And when you have that mindset, instead of this is the time that I have to work my business and I didn't get that, so therefore I'm not going to work my business, what does that show your team? That if they don't have the 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. time slot that they had allotted for this business after they got off from work and they made their family dinner, then they're not going to work, right? Life happens and it's never going to stop happening. And you truly can have it all: a successful business, a successful team, a happy family, have time with your friends, have time with self-care. But you have to focus on your priorities and you have to allow that fluidity and that fluid energy to come to you and to allow that to be your reality. Because so often we're stuck in our ways that even though, you know, things are going to come up, but we have the opportunity to move things around. Again, we get paralyzed. And so we just don't. And we're like, oh, I didn't do what I wanted to complete my business today. And then it starts that spiral and that negative cycle. So then you wake up tomorrow and you're worried about the fact that you didn't get the things done in your house and in your business, and you didn't spend time with your kids. And what the hell did I even do yesterday? And now today is shit. Right? And you create this cycle of like, repetitiveness, and it could be a good cycle or it can be the cycle that you're in. So you could repeat the same thing that you did yesterday and then you didn't do it again, so now you're going to do it again tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Or you could be fluid with your business, be fluid with your kids, with your family, with your friends, with your life, and figure it out. Like we put so much pressure on things and we don't need to put that much pressure on it. Like it's sending 60 messages. It's adding people on Facebook. It's going to hang out with your friends. Why is that a big deal? Why, if you stay an extra hour, is that inhibiting the rest of your evening? No, so you just move things up an hour, right? But that's where that anxiety mindset comes in of now the order is out of place. And so that stresses you out because you feel like you don't have control over what comes next, but you really do. So instead of getting paralyzed in that fear of what if I don't do this, or I feel like I'm not going to have control later, instead thinking, okay, this came up, this is what happened. Again, taking things moment by moment, breaking it down. What is one thing that I could do right now that, number one, makes me happy, and number two is checking something off of my list? And if that means spending time with your kids before you send your messages, because that's what's going to make you happy, then that's what you do. And then you stay up an extra 30 minutes to knock out 60% of the 6 list that you didn't finish in the morning, right? And maybe you don't mark off 100% of it, but you do better tomorrow. right? That's always what it's all about, is just doing better than you did yesterday and trying your best. And as long as you're doing those things, you can't beat yourself up, because again, things are going to come up, and there are going to be days like yesterday where I literally sent like not nearly as many messages as I want. I could beat myself up about it today and inevitably in return not do that again today. Or I could say, okay, this came up, this came up, this came up. I need to put my kids to bed. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to eat a bowl of ice cream and watch my show while I finish my 6 list. It's not as stressful as we make it out to be. It's not as hard as we make it out to be. And again, what that shows your team when you do these things and you create that good momentum for yourself is it creates duplication. And it shows your team that they're allowed to live their life. And the beauty of this business, not the negative aspect of it, is that you can move things around, right? So often we get stuck of like, well, I still have to do this, AKA something on your 6 list. No, you get to do that. You have the flexibility, unlike a 9 to 5, to push things out another 3 hours because your kid is throwing up. You get to create your own schedule. You get to have freedom of time. You get to hang out with your friends. You get to go on that trip. You get to take 6 hours off and work when your kid's to bed, even though you haven't worked all day, because that's the time that you have. So instead of looking at it as a negative thing, you're looking at it as an asset, because you have not only a fluid life and you're allowing things to just come and go and taking them as they come, but now you have a positive outlook. And literally that switch of word, literally one word, I have to, or I get to, create something so neurologically different in your brain, it's not even funny. And last night, again, is a perfect example. I didn't want to send messages, and I said, to Connor, I have to send my messages. He goes, baby, do you get that you get to work from your bed while you're watching a show with me before we go to sleep? And it really put me in check, because I understood what he was saying in that moment when he was like, not everybody has this luxury. People don't get to work in bed, even though they haven't worked all day, because their kids were being some type of way, or because something came up, right? So I want you to remember and keep that motto that I can have it all. I can. I just need to stop putting so much pressure on myself, do what makes me happy, and the rest will follow. It's literally that simple. And I know that it's so much easier said than done. But when you take that pressure off of it and you start saying, I get to do these things instead of I have to, your whole mindset shifts. And you're like, wow. Like, how cool is it? And I'm going to brag for a second, because I get to, and you guys get to do the same. How cool is it that I got to work in the car on the way to go see my friends, and then I didn't touch my phone, and I didn't have to answer any phone calls while I was there. And then my husband wasn't feeling good, so I got to drove home. And then now my kids are in bed, and so I get to work now. And then after that, I get to unwind and watch a movie and eat ice cream and sleep in tomorrow. Like, that for me is the definition of a perfect day, even though things didn't go perfect. Does that make sense? So remember that you can have it all. I'm going to leave you guys with that. Dest, if you, I really want you to hear like the first part of this training too. So I'm going to post the recording tonight and I'll send it in the leadership chat, but seriously, just think about that for a second and think about the way that you're thinking about things and how much pressure you're putting on yourself, and remind yourself to just take it one step at a time. So I love you guys. Thanks for hopping on, and I'll chat with you soon.